Following the incident that erased my memories, I ceased trying to understand Clara Maxwell. We simply existed in separate orbits within the same universe, careful not to collide. She, in turn, dedicated her vast resources and influential connections to Julian Croft, meticulously constructing a gilded highway for his burgeoning career. It seemed everyone else in our social circle felt compelled to inform me of the situation. "You should probably drop this amnesia act," they'd say with knowing glances. "If you keep this up, your position as Mr. Maxwell is going to be filled." I would offer a quiet laugh, thinking to myself how little they understood. They couldn't possibly comprehend the relief of this newfound freedom. This was my chance to live a life devoid of expectation, a life where financial security was a given without the accompanying burden of work. Sometime later, she was involved in a severe car accident while on business in the States. I was attending a music festival overseas at the time. Her sister's call reached me in the middle of a performance, her voice strained as she urged me to return immediately. I projected the appropriate amount of distress into my voice, playing the part of the concerned husband. "Oh, heavens, is she all right? I'm terribly worried. I'll get on the first flight back." Yet, by the time she was discharged from the hospital, I had still not made an appearance. When I finally did return, I wore a mask of sincere apology and wove a tale of misfortune. "My wallet was stolen the moment I stepped off the plane," I explained, the lie slipping easily from my lips. "The only thing they didn't take was my phone. I am so terribly sorry I couldn't get back to you sooner." She didn't respond to the excuse. She just stared at me for a long moment before walking forward and gently taking my hand in hers. Her eyes were shadowed and red-rimmed. "Can we please stop all this fighting?" she whispered. That same day, Julian Croft was the #1 trending topic online, celebrated for his role in a major historical blockbuster. The comment sections were a deluge of praise from his devoted fan base and a legion of paid commentators, all of whom meticulously listed the supposed hardships he had overcome throughout his years in the industry. The consensus was that he had, at long last, achieved the success he deserved. In that exact moment, I was seated in a plush VIP hospital room, my fingers gingerly tracing the edge of the bandage wrapped around my head. A slow, incredulous grin spread across my face as I surveyed the luxurious private room. My eyes gleamed with a strange light. How was it possible that I could fall asleep for a while and awaken as some privileged, wealthy young man? Just then, a nurse entered the room. I quickly gestured to my head and asked, "Excuse me, miss, do you have any idea when I might be able to leave?" She responded in a soft, professional tone. "We'll need to keep you under observation for another 2 or 3 days. If there are no further adverse reactions, you should be cleared to go home." I waved a hand dismissively. "That's wonderful, but I can leave now. I feel perfectly fine." I blinked my large, pleading eyes at her. "Can't I?" She seemed to hesitate for a moment before replying. "I will go and ask the doctor to perform another checkup. If he determines you're stable, you can be discharged." "Excellent, thank you so much." After the nurse departed, I stretched my neck to retrieve my phone from the bedside table. I was entirely unprepared for the flood of information that greeted me. 99 unread notifications. My vision was still slightly unfocused, so I had to hold the screen close to my face. The contact pinned to the very top of my messages was labeled simply Clara. There was a single, terse message from her. "If you continue with this behavior, we are getting a divorce." A divorce? The word echoed in my mind. The next second, I was dialing my mother. As soon as the call connected, I asked without preamble, "Did you happen to win the national lottery?" Her voice came back sharp and annoyed. "You insolent boy! You need to tell Clara to give your brother." I ended the call before she could finish her sentence. I then called my father, posed the same question, and received a similar, self-serving response. By 3:33 p.m., I had confirmed that my family had not come into any sudden wealth. The source of the money was, in fact, the very wife who was now threatening to divorce me. With a sense of urgency, I accessed my mobile banking app. When I saw the staggering number of zeros in my account balance, I immediately went back to review my chat history with Clara. The contents were so mortifying I nearly fainted. Was it possible my brain had been struck by something heavy before I woke up? The log showed me, in excruciating detail, begging and pleading for my unfaithful wife to return to me. I placed my hands on my hips, my fingers pressing into my temples as a wave of disbelief washed over me. When had I devolved into such a pathetic figure? I walked into the ensuite bathroom and stared at my own haggard reflection, pointing a finger at the man in the mirror. "Ethan," I muttered, "when did you become so weak? You actually begged for love? Did you suffer a head injury or something?" After the doctor gave me the all-clear, I made a direct line for the most exclusive shopping district. My first stop was a high-end boutique where I purchased a limited-edition Patek Philippe watch without a second thought, strapping it securely to my wrist. The saleswoman, observing my extravagant spending, was beaming, her smile so wide it nearly erased her eyes. She lavished me with every compliment she could conjure. By the time I exited the mall, I was practically radiating the distinct aroma of wealth and luxury. Perfect. My next destination was a private, members-only club. I arrived carrying a briefcase filled with cash. Inside, I used a thick stack of bills to gently lift the chin of one of the models. "Do you like me?" I asked. Her eyes lit up with an intensity that resembled laser beams. "I like you the most, handsome," she purred. "You're attractive. You have an amazing physique. Who wouldn't be drawn to you? Anyone who says otherwise must be blind." I turned to another. "Do you love me?" She immediately knelt at my feet. "After my own father, you are the person I love and care for most in this entire world." I held out a substantial wad of cash, and with a satisfied grin, had them use it to fan my face. You see, love simply materializes. With enough money, you can procure any kind of love you desire. These women were so silver-tongued they could articulate any sentiment required. I was so elated I felt dizzy. Following a hazy, half-formed memory, I eventually found myself standing before a magnificent villa. My legs felt strangely weak, and my heart pounded in my chest. I took in the enormous fountain in the circular driveway, the art-filled gallery visible through the ground-floor windows, the meticulously landscaped garden, and the sprawling swimming pool. The smile on my face grew wider and wider. This was my home. I pushed open the heavy front door. The grand living room was cast in shadows. I used my phone's flashlight to search for the light switch on the wall. Before my fingers could find it, a terrified scream sliced through the darkness. The sudden sound sent a jolt through me, and I clutched my chest, my legs buckling as I leaned against the wall for support, peering toward the source of the cry. The next second, the lights flickered to life. I squinted instinctively against the sudden brightness. When my eyes adjusted, I saw a woman holding a man protectively in her arms. They were some distance away, and their features were indistinct, forcing me to squint to see them clearly. The woman's voice, cool and laced with impatience, cut through the silence. "What is it this time? Are you planning to jump from the roof or slit your wrists?" Before my mind could process the scene, the man beside her, who seemed utterly terrified of my presence, looked at me with his beautiful eyes welling up with tears. I held up my hands in a placating gesture. "Hey, my apologies for the interruption. It was so dark in here I didn't see anyone. I'll just be heading upstairs now. You two, please, carry on." With that, I spun around and ascended the grand staircase as if my feet had been coated in oil. I located a bedroom based on the same faint memory and stepped inside. Once again, I found myself marveling at the sheer scale of the place. It was an enormous room. After I had showered and emerged from the bathroom, I found someone else was present. It was the woman from downstairs. I deduced that this must be Clara, the wifey from my phone's contact list. She was wearing a silk blouse with the sleeves elegantly rolled up, leaning against the wall and observing me with a cold, assessing stare. "What sort of trick are you attempting to pull this time?" she asked. Before I could formulate a response, I heard her sneer. "Amnesia?" I knew instantly that even if I presented her with the official doctor's report, she would remain unconvinced. So I just waved my hands frantically. No, I'm perfectly fine, completely fine." An uncomfortable silence settled over the room. I felt nothing for her. I had no memories of our life together. To me, she was just an unknown woman standing in my bedroom. I asked tentatively, "Is there anything else? If not, you are welcome to leave." I couldn't fathom why a woman engaged in an affair would choose to remain here. She lazily lifted her eyelids, her gaze meeting mine. "Weren't you the one just recently begging me to come back?" she asked, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Well, if you're occupied, you should feel free to go," I replied with a nervous laugh. She gave me one last cold look before turning and entering the bathroom. I sat on the edge of the large bed and scrolled through my phone for a while, managing to read through about half of my messages. So, Julian Croft was Clara's childhood friend. His family had declared bankruptcy when they were both in college. He failed to get into the same university as Clara, and their youthful affection was consequently buried by circumstance. The next time they encountered each other, Julian was a struggling extra in Hollywood, while Clara was already the CEO of the powerful Maxwell Corporation. The entire story read like something lifted from the pages of a novel. She apparently felt a great deal of sympathy for his past misfortunes and wanted to help pave a smooth path for his career. Except, I had entered the picture and thrown a wrench into her plans. During that tumultuous period, I had publicly accused Julian of being a homewrecker. Julian's professional rivals had seized the opportunity, fanning the flames of the scandal, and he was subjected to such intense public scrutiny that he nearly quit the entertainment industry entirely. A quick search revealed that the whole incident had concluded with me issuing a formal public apology. The general gist of it was that I had misunderstood their relationship, and that Julian had not, in fact, interfered in our marriage. What a load of nonsense. How touching. What a wonderful way to protect him. I yawned and decided to feign sleep before she emerged from the bathroom. If I was asleep, it would prevent any further awkwardness. When I awoke the following morning, I was alone in the room. After breakfast, I casually inquired of the butler, "Arthur, what do I typically do around this time of day?" Arthur paused what he was doing and seemed to think for a long moment before choosing his words with great care. "Sir, you usually go to Madam's company around this time." "To work?" I asked. No, sir." "All right, I understand." For the next several weeks, Clara did not return to the villa. In the meantime, I befriended a group of wealthy young men who introduced me to a world of exclusive clubs, high-stakes poker games, and upscale bars. "It took you long enough, man," one of them, Owen, a good friend of mine, commented one night. "You've finally decided to start living a little." He was a classically handsome man. I shook my head internally. "Women, you have a gorgeous, incredible man at home, yet you still can't resist the allure of what's outside." He slowly exhaled a plume of smoke. A young starlet seated beside him quickly reached over to hand him an ashtray. The model next to me was equally attentive. She picked up a fresh strawberry, brought it to my lips, and whispered, Have a strawberry, handsome. Then she leaned in closer and asked, Do you want to play a game? I was intrigued. What kind of game? The model had an innocent-looking face, but her smile was utterly captivating. I found myself staring for a moment. She leaned toward my ear, but before she could utter more than a few words, the door to our private room was kicked open with a loud bang. A woman dressed in a chic Chanel suit stormed in, her face contorted with rage, and slapped the starlet across the face. I gasped and covered my mouth in shock, but the other wealthy men, including Owen, seemed completely unfazed by the dramatic intrusion. The starlet didn't dare to retaliate. Finally, Owen glanced down at his nails and said nonchalantly, Are you finished? If you're finished, get out. Don't frighten my friends. In the dim lighting of the private room, the faint yellow glow from the city outside illuminated the woman's pale face. She removed her coat, draped it over Owen's shoulders, and grabbed his hand. Come home with me, she said, her voice tight. After Owen had left, I asked the remaining men, What was that all about? They just laughed and said, It's one set of rules for them and another for us. As we were leaving the club later, I tilted my head and asked the model who had been with me, Why do you do this? She smiled, and her answer was simple and direct. I need the money. I asked, Are you clean? She paused for a second, as if the question caught her off guard, before nodding. Yes. I smiled. All right, I'll give you $10,000 a month to spend time with me. Her lips moved, forming a silent, Thank you. What's your name? I asked. Your real name. Maya. The day Clara and Julian's names rocketed to the top of the trending topics list, Maya and I woke up at 4 a.m. We were going to watch the sunrise. There is a particular road in Los Angeles that is surrounded by the ocean on 3 sides. She drove a scooter, and I sat on the back. There were plenty of others like us, all heading out to witness the dawn. The horizon was already painted with a magnificent, soft glow. The coastal highway was lined with tall palm trees, and a gentle, cool breeze was blowing in from the sea. At 5 o'clock, a crowd of people stood on the beach for nearly 20 minutes. The sun, resembling a salted egg yolk, slowly ascended above the sea level. Its light was brilliant, but not yet blinding. After we returned to the villa, I fell into a deep sleep the moment my head hit the pillow. I was woken up by the incessant buzzing of my phone. I groaned, ran my hands through my messy hair, and yelled in frustration, for crying out loud. Ugh! So annoying, so annoying! Ugh! I grabbed my pillow and thrashed it against the bed in a fit of irritation. I unlocked my phone. Everyone, both familiar and unfamiliar, was messaging me to ask if Clara and I were getting a divorce. The sentiment was largely the same. You should probably drop this amnesia act. If you keep this up, your position as Mr. Maxwell is going to be filled. I just thought to myself, are you serious? Please don't ruin this for me. I had finally stumbled into a life where I didn't have to work and still had an abundance of money to spend. I scratched my head, took a deep breath, and opened X. The #1 trending topic was Clara Maxwell Julian Croft. Apparently, one of their high school classmates had posted an old video online. There was a popular series circulating called The Heart of a 17-Year-Old. After a short transition, the video showed a photograph of this person in a classroom setting. In the background of the photo, several students in school uniforms were visible. I looked down at the photo, which had been enlarged and enhanced by netizens to make it clearer. You could now see Julian's face with much more clarity. The teenage boy was looking up at the girl standing in front of him, his eyes bright with a smile. The girl was leaning against the blackboard at the back of the classroom, her posture relaxed, her head slightly lowered, a gentle smile playing on her lips. The comment section was exploding. Is this a high school rom-com? I'm invested. So all those coincidences weren't coincidences after all. The CEO has been protecting him this entire time. Spill the tea. I love this. But isn't Clara Maxwell married? What does that make them? Isn't Julian Croft a homewrecker? Among the sea of fans shipping this reunited couple narrative, a rare dissenting voice appeared, but people tend to only hear what they want to hear and see what they want to see. As soon as a voice that didn't align with their carefully constructed fairy tale narrative emerged, they would reshape their fantasy world with all sorts of "I heard" and "from what I understand." That husband isn't even as attractive as Julian. Besides, I heard he used some underhanded tactics to marry into the Maxwell family. Otherwise, how could someone like him ever have gotten into a family like that? I agree. The fact that Julian and Miss Maxwell met again proves that even fate couldn't bear to keep them apart. The comments went back and forth, but my mind was a complete blank. I couldn't even remember how Clara and I had met, or the circumstances of our marriage. I scratched my head in confusion. Why would the heiress of a wealthy and powerful family agree to marry me? Didn't her parents object? I couldn't figure it out, so I decided to stop thinking about it. That evening, I was waiting for Maya outside the Caltech campus. She had taken a year off from her studies due to family issues, but had recently re-enrolled. She was wearing a blue short-sleeved shirt over a plain white t-shirt. A sharp, piercing pain suddenly shot through my head, and a faint, fleeting image flickered in my mind. "Hey, have you been waiting long?" she asked, pulling me from my reverie. I shook my head gently. "Not really. Is there anywhere good to eat around here?" "Do you want to get barbecue? A new place just opened that's supposed to be really good." "Sounds good." Caltech and UCLA are located close to each other. As we were passing by the UCLA campus, I slowed the car to a stop, looking at the familiar gates. Maya asked softly, "What's wrong?" I said slowly, "I used to go to school here." We were about to drive away when an elderly voice called out from behind us. "Is that you, Ethan?" I turned around to see a small, cheerful old man walking over with a bicycle. "The last time you two came to a school event was years ago. What, did you come all this way just to see an old man like me?" I pursed my lips. Most people find the concept of amnesia to be ridiculous, so I just smiled and said, "Yes, Professor, we came to see you today. How have you been?" The professor smiled and waved his hand dismissively. "Good, good. I know Clara is busy with work." "Oh, and who is this?" he asked, gesturing toward Maya. I said, "A friend of mine. She goes to Caltech next door." "Hello there." Maya bowed her head slightly. "Hello, Professor. It's very nice to meet you." The professor nodded, then looked at me with a kind, nostalgic smile. "My, how time flies. It feels like just yesterday you two were freshmen. That girl ran all over Pasadena in the middle of the night just to find you a complete set of those collectibles, and she had a major competition the very next day. It's wonderful to be young. And just like that, you've been married for 5 years now." Hearing this, the smile on my face froze. "I am 28 this year." The professor continued, "I wanted her to stay for her master's and PhD. She joined my research institute as a freshman. She was a rare genius. But her parents objected at the time. She told me she had to build a future for the two of you." Suddenly, a sharp pain pierced my heart, and a scene flashed vividly in my mind. A girl in a blue shirt darting through dark streets and narrow alleys. Then, a clear, confident voice echoed in my ears. "Hey you, very chic getting a tan. I was just thinking I'm too pale myself. Mind if I join you? Oh, look at me rambling. I have to get to class." "You should both come and visit this old man when you have time," the professor said, breaking the spell. I smiled. "We will. Please take care of yourself." After the professor had left, Maya saw that I looked pale and asked cautiously, "What's wrong? You don't look so good." "It's nothing," I replied. "I just remembered some things." The nights in Los Angeles are dazzling, with golden lights illuminating the Western-style architecture of the high-rise buildings. Owen was drunk, and I had come to pick him up. A waiter led me to a private room where he was sitting on the floor, his head resting on the table, his curly hair splayed out around him. I had no idea how he had managed to get this intoxicated. Hearing the noise, he groggily lifted his head, his voice slurred. "Is that Ethan?" "Yeah, come on, I'll take you home." "Home?" He blinked, staring at me blankly for a long time. Finally, he cracked a painful smile. "Right, my home. The one where I'm all alone." As he laughed, he seemed to remember something and handed me his phone. The screen displayed an acceptance letter from a foreign university. "I'm going to study abroad." My mouth fell open in surprise. "Congratulations, man. I'll come and visit you there." "Yeah, you better. I'll show you around my school." But he didn't look happy. Looking at the scattered empty bottles, I said, "Isn't this the school you always wanted to go to?" "Hmm? Why do you say that?" "You just don't seem very happy about it." He paused, then threw his head back and laughed, a hollow sound. "No, it's just a little surreal." I looked at him, confused, as he began to speak in a soft, broken voice. "We were high school sweethearts, grew up together. Just as we planned, we got married right after college. But then came the 7-year itch. In our 2nd year of marriage, she cheated on me. And you know what? The other guy was just a nose job away from being my identical twin. I thought it was the most absurd thing in the world." He covered his face with his hands, tears streaming through his fingers. "She said she'd been with me for too long and couldn't feel that first love spark anymore. She said nothing happened, but my email, my phone, they were filled with explicit photos that guy sent me. I don't understand. Our love was so genuine back then. Her eyes were always on me. How could she just fall in love with someone else? I demanded a divorce. I'd rather burn everything to the ground than compromise. She was tainted. Why would I still want her? But I couldn't leave. I couldn't. My father told me our 2 family companies were too deeply intertwined. I couldn't get a divorce, so I had to endure it. Endure her telling me she loved me while she was sleeping with other men." He gritted his teeth and swept a glass bottle off the table. It shattered on the floor, a perfect metaphor for their sham of a marriage. No matter how you piece it back together, it's never the same. And she wouldn't divorce me either. She just trapped me in this rotten marriage. I felt like I was going crazy, Ethan. I wasn't myself anymore." He rested his head on my shoulder, sobbing softly, a note of profound relief in his voice. "Now I can finally leave. I regret it so much. I regret ever being with her." I wiped away the tears that had unknowingly welled in my own eyes and gently patted his back. The song Under Mount Fuji played on a loop in the room. You only have your own 2 hands. An embrace can't make someone yours to own. To have anything, you first must learn how to lose. Who can claim Mount Fuji as their own just by loving it? The car stopped in front of a villa. Maya got out and gently helped Owen inside. I used his finger to unlock the door with the fingerprint scanner. After putting him to bed, I said to Maya, "You can go. I'll stay here and look after him. Take the car for now. I'll pick it up in a few days." "Okay, I'll see you then." She turned to leave, then paused and glanced back at me. "Was the person the professor mentioned today your wife?" My eyelashes lowered. "I guess so." She nodded slightly and left. In the middle of the night, I sat on the balcony, the wind chilling me as I rubbed my temples. I didn't have many memories left. Back then, I was constantly shuttling between 2 families, my mother's new family and my father's. They used to own a house together, but neither wanted the other to have it. So they sold it and split the money. Neither of their new homes had a room for me. I had to sleep on the living room couch. I used to fantasize that I was adopted, that my real parents would one day find me and take me away, and I would finally have a room of my own. I also dreamed of becoming a tycoon with a huge villa, a massive room, and a big soft bed. As I was lost in my thoughts, my phone rang. It was Clara. I pulled the blanket tighter around myself, remembering Owen's heart-wrenching sobs in the club. Maybe they really had loved each other, and the love had been so overwhelming at the time that the discovery of its absence was that much harder to bear. The phone rang, stopped, and then rang again. It was as if she wouldn't give up until I answered. After my amnesia, everyone had been shocked by my change in demeanor. Owen told me that before, if Clara had even dared to give Julian a minor role in a movie their company funded, I would have stormed her office and flown across the country to tear him apart. But now, Clara was a stranger to me. I had no feelings for her, aside from the occasional, painful flashes of memory. I bit my finger. Clara was so wealthy. I should be able to get a hefty settlement in the divorce, right? I could still be a rich man, just maybe not one who could afford to give Maya $10,000 a month. The phone kept vibrating. I reached out and answered. The moment I did, Clara's furious voice came through the receiver. "Where are you? Why did it take you so long to answer? Do you have any idea what time it is? It's 2 a.m. Where are you?" I propped my head up with my hand. "I'm on a trip. What's wrong?" There was a moment of silence on the other end, only the sound of her breathing. "Are you alone? With a friend? Anything else?" "Which friend? How come I—" She was being far too nosy. I hung up, annoyed. The night was so dark. I pinched the bridge of my nose. I'd rather burn it all down than compromise. Maybe the old Ethan felt the same way. Later, on the first day of filming for Julian's historical drama, Clara made an appearance on set. The two of them looked perfect together. But this time, the news didn't make it to the top of the trending topics. And, in a forgotten corner of a storage room in the villa, I found the collection of figurines the professor had talked about. I searched for them on my phone. The complete set had once been sold at auction for an astronomical price. But with the passage of time, the figurines had lost their vibrant color, their edges yellowing with age. In the locked box, there were many other gifts and photographs. They had been forgotten by their owner in a dusty corner, collecting dust, turning yellow. The Clara in the photographs was much younger than she was now. I had only seen her once since I returned, and I hadn't seen her smile. But here, Clara was smiling in every single photo, her eyes always fixed on me. There was also a book inside, and a postcard fell out from between its pages. It was a postcard for the novel that Julian's drama was based on. On the back was a long, handwritten message. "One wrong move, and the whole game is lost." But I couldn't for the life of me figure out which move had been the wrong one. That day, I stood at a crossroads as heavy snow fell, blurring the path ahead. This winter was so cold, I felt like I might not make it to spring. Julian Croft was cast as the lead in the adaptation of my novel, The Scheme. She had promised me that if she bought the rights, I would have absolute creative control. I believed her. The casting was delayed. The project stalled. She said the company had a big project, and filming would start once the funds were available. I believed that too. In the end, she lied to me. Just like when my parents sold the house and told me their new homes were my home, they said I was crazy. I think I must have been sick. I actually wanted to drag them both down with me. Anyone could have played the lead in The Scheme. Anyone but Julian Croft. Reading those words, I could almost feel the despair that the old Ethan had felt, day after day. I took a deep breath and looked coldly at the collectibles scattered on the carpet. I took the book and the postcard and told Arthur to throw the rest of the junk away. Just then, Owen called. "You packed yet?" I looked at the suitcase resting next to me. A singer Owen had loved for years was holding a concert abroad. The interesting thing was, the concert was happening 5 years after the tickets originally went on sale. Back then, there was a discount for buying a pair of tickets, and many people had bought them for their friends and partners. 5 years later, would the person you promised to go to the concert with still be by your side? The singer had posted that very question at the time, and entry was granted as long as both tickets were verified as genuine. I finished typing my message and left the villa with my suitcase. My feelings were complicated, but I couldn't betray the helpless, isolated Ethan of the past. After the plane took off, my scheduled post went live. "Hello everyone, I'm Ethan King, the author of The Scheme. If this work must be starred in by a third party who wrecked someone's family, then I am willing to pay the breach of contract fee myself. Clara Maxwell, the CEO of the Maxwell Corporation, and I have been together since our freshman year of college. You all say I used underhanded tactics to marry her. Well, I'd like to ask you, Miss Maxwell, what tactics did I use? I'm quite curious myself. Throughout this relationship, you all drove me crazy, simply because a crazy person's words can't be trusted. The online mob, in their quest to ship a fantasy couple, has fabricated all sorts of lies and slung all sorts of mud at me. I'm posting 4 images. The first is our marriage certificate. At that time, we had finally won her parents' approval because the company she founded for my sake had gone public. That's what she told her professor back then, that she was building a future for us. The second image is of that popular collectible series. She was in Pasadena for a competition, and she searched high and low, running all over the city to find me the complete set. The third image is the photo we posted on social media to announce our relationship. The matching rings we're wearing were designed by her, engraved with our initials. Why is the fourth image black? Because even something white can be spun as black. Clara always told me she and Julian Croft grew up together, that she felt sorry for him and wanted to help him. But for years, you've promoted him, throwing resources and connections his way. That's a fact everyone can see. You've never responded to the online speculation about your relationship, letting the public direct their attacks at me. You let them believe that I was the one who stole you, that I ruined your so-called love story. Every time you told me you were just friends. Is this really what friendship looks like? Is this how friends behave? I once wrote a long post online complaining about this. You swore to me that you were just friends, that I was overthinking it, that Julian's career was just starting, and asked if I could really live with myself if I ruined someone like that. Back then, I was blinded by love, and I actually believed you, so I issued an apology. How did we get here? This failed marriage is not my fault. It's both of your faults. You destroyed my faith in marriage, my hopes for the future. And now, Clara Maxwell, I am officially informing you we are getting a divorce. The statement dropped like a bomb online. Julian Croft had just finished filming for the day and was happily interacting with his fans. A fan pointed towards his trailer and teased, "Hey, are you hiding someone special in there? You're practically glowing." In front of all the cameras, Julian didn't deny it. He just covered his mouth and giggled shyly. Suddenly, a gasp came from the crowd. "Julian, is what Ethan King said true?" The once harmonious atmosphere instantly fell silent as everyone pulled out their phones. Julian's face turned pale. Forgetting his public image, he snatched a phone from a fan to see for himself. A moment later, the scene erupted into chaos. Everyone was demanding to know what his relationship with Clara Maxwell was, whether he had destroyed someone's family. No one could accept their idol being a morally corrupt homewrecker. Julian's face went white. He couldn't say a word. Because he had previously removed the security barricades to seem more fan-friendly, he was now completely surrounded. They demanded an explanation. Julian was so panicked he was speechless, but he knew he couldn't say anything rash. If he spoke recklessly now, it could severely limit the PR team's options later. So he had to remain silent. Clara only found out about the situation from a flood of frantic calls from her parents and the company's shareholders. She had just arrived at the villa. Seeing the long post, she frantically ran upstairs but couldn't find Ethan anywhere. She immediately tried calling him, but he didn't pick up. The villa was eerily quiet, but her phone never stopped ringing. She sat on the edge of the bed and looked up at the wall where their wedding photo used to hang, only to find an empty space. Ethan wanted a divorce. Clara looked down at his post and hung her head in despair. She hadn't stopped loving him. How could she not love him? She closed her eyes, and her mind filled with images of his fading smiles, his once clear eyes that had become dull and lifeless. It felt like she hadn't truly seen him in a long time. He hadn't come looking for her, hadn't messaged her. When she realized this, she had wanted to come back, to text him. But once you get used to being proud, it's difficult to lower your head. She had thought he was just throwing a tantrum like he used to. She waited and waited, but he never came back. She sat there until dawn, then grabbed her coat and walked out. She was wrong. So terribly wrong. The Maxwell Corporation stock had been plummeting since the day before. All the shareholders were blaming Clara for not answering her phone, for missing the crucial window to issue a clarification. They said there was still time to save the situation, that she needed to release a counterstatement. But Clara posted a public apology instead. After the concert, Owen and I traveled to a few other countries. As we were watching the tuk-tuks zip through the busy streets of a foreign city, a call came from the States. Her sister called to tell me Clara had been in a car accident. It was serious. She asked if I could come back and see her. Owen and I looked at each other, finding the situation a little ironic. The scandal was still a hot topic. I couldn't believe they didn't know. I played dumb. "Oh my God, is she okay? I'm so worried. I'll head back right away." Then I immediately hung up and went back to sightseeing. It was months before I finally returned to the US. Owen was about to leave for school abroad. I went back to the villa one last time to pack my things. As I was changing my shoes in the foyer, Clara came downstairs. I hadn't seen her much since I lost my memory. All I knew was that she had lost a significant amount of weight. Even though we were on terrible terms, I was still technically her husband. I put on an apologetic face and spouted nonsense. "My wallet was stolen the second I landed. All I had left was my phone. I'm so sorry I couldn't make it back in time." She just looked at me, walked over, and took my hand. Her eyes were red. "Can we stop fighting, please?" I smiled and gently pulled my hand away. "I'm not fighting with you. The divorce is real. Are you going to agree to a settlement, or do I have to sue you in court? Your company's stock has hit rock bottom, hasn't it?" "Ethan!" She closed her eyes in despair, a single tear sliding from the corner of her eye. "I really, really don't know how it turned into this. At first, I just wanted to help him. There was this dinner party, and I passed by a room where he was being forced to dance for everyone's amusement. We grew up together. I'd seen him when he was shining. I just wanted to give him a few resources. But then, I don't know how things got so out of control. Ethan, I never did anything to betray you." I looked at her coldly. "Clara, an emotional affair is still an affair. It's no different from a physical one. Do you know why I was in a car accident?" I looked into her confused and desperate eyes and smiled. "You didn't believe I was in an accident. You didn't believe I really had amnesia. You just thought it was another one of my tricks to keep you. Back then, someone told me you were going to let Julian Croft star in The Scheme." "Clara." I let out a soft sigh. Why did it have to be him? Were you that desperate to spite me? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. He said that if he could get the lead role in that drama, it might help him win Best Actor next time. I thought that if he became famous, I would have fulfilled my duty to our childhood friendship, and then we could stop fighting over him all the time. Clara's features were delicate, but now she looked utterly haggard. Her almond-shaped eyes, which usually made her look gentle, were filled with a profound sorrow. This is where we end. You have to remember from start to finish, you're the one who wronged me. You're the one who betrayed me, Clara. No, I don't want a divorce, Ethan. She gritted her teeth and threw her arms around me. Please, just give me one more chance. I was wrong. I was so wrong. The next time we meet, I expect to see the divorce papers. I hope we don't have to take this to court. Our ending is already ugly enough, Clara. I pushed her away, took my suitcase, and went upstairs. Julian Croft was effectively blacklisted from the industry. He sent me a message. He asked if I was really going to push him to the edge, if I was trying to kill him. Then he just started cursing me out. I don't know how he managed to add me as a contact, but I deleted him without a second thought. But the old Ethan was already dead, killed by them. Clara was removed from her position as CEO. In the divorce settlement, she gave me almost everything she owned. Ethan, I'm so sorry, she said, her face pale as she sat there, looking as if she had aged 10 years in an instant. I had finally achieved my childhood dream of becoming a multimillionaire. I sold the villa she gave me. The winters in Los Angeles were too cold. I was going back home to the South. Before I left, I went to the UCLA campus one last time. While I was abroad, I had remembered everything. I walked onto the vast athletic field. That year, neither of my parents would give me any money for living expenses. My class schedule was packed, leaving me almost no time for a part-time job. After gym class, everyone else had left. I stood under the scorching sun, thinking I might as well just die. My life seemed hopeless. Suddenly, an umbrella appeared over my head, and a clear, feminine voice said, "Hey you, very chic, getting a tan. I was just thinking I'm too pale myself. Mind if I join you?" Before I lost consciousness, I squinted, trying to get a good look at the person who would say something so strange. She had dyed blonde hair and features so perfect she looked like a doll. She wasn't holding the umbrella for herself. I don't know if it was because I was starving and hallucinating, or if the light was just that blinding, but in that moment, I really wanted to grow old with her. On the day I left Los Angeles, the first snow of the season began to fall. As I was going through airport security, I caught a flash of gold in my peripheral vision. Then it was gone. Her proposal had been spectacular, grand. On the outskirts of the city, countless drones had formed my name in the sky as brilliant fireworks lit up the night. A carpet of red rose petals led to a sea of flowers. She said that loving someone required ceremony, that ceremony was a sign of how much you valued them, and that it was what would make you last. The beginning of the story is always beautiful, but the ending was a complete and utter mess. The Clara Maxwell I knew at 19, we didn't make it to the end. You betrayed me.